Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Movie Market Podcast. It is Tuesday, June the 17th, 2025. I am your host, Jeffrey Dunyan, and I'm recording this today about 2 hours prior to the open of the market. I know yesterday, late in the day, I mentioned on the podcast that I would start today probably an hour and a half to 2 hours after the market opened. I'm doing exactly opposite and starting a couple hours before the market opens instead of after. And the reason I'm doing that is because I woke up this morning to a futures market that looks pretty dour and looks pretty ugly. And I just want to comment a little bit on what's going on and how and why it might move some things and what to kind of expect and what to kind of prepare for. So as you can see right here, futures on the Dow down almost 200 points. They were 250 down 20 minutes ago when I logged on for the first time. Nasdaq's down about 100 points. It was down 150 or 175. S&P down 26. So you can see all of those are right close to about a 0.5% down. Now, with 2 hours to go until the market opens, anything could happen. This could all be pointing in an upward direction. It could be much closer to flat. It could be worse than it is. If it didn't get any worse, 0.5% is not that big a deal. That's what you want to see. You know, a third to a 0.5% daily movement on the Dow, the S&P, and the Nasdaq, I think is kind of a good thing, be it up or down. I like the markets when they're a little more steady and not moving much more than a third to a 0.5% in any direction on a single trading day. So we'll see what happens. The markets are down right now because President Trump left the G7 summit taking place in Canada early because he wanted to monitor more closely some of the newest developments that are going on with Iran and Israel. In the initial attack that Israel made, they took out some of the top military people for the country of Iran, and a newly appointed top military leader, I think he's the top military leader for the country, who was put in that position only 4 days ago, has now been recently taken out, I guess just, overnight, our time. And so the question becomes, what is Iran going to do now to retaliate? And it's not a different plan or a different strategy by Israel. It's some people see it as an escalation, or at least makes it much less that there is any kind of de-escalation. And so that's what's got the markets a little bit concerned right now. Markets were up yesterday on a drop in the price of oil, and upon the news of this top leader being taken out overnight, oil jumped back up a little bit. This $1.44 a share or a barrel move on oil is not as big as the move down was yesterday, but it's a move up, and so it's got people worried. The other thing in the backdrop, or sort of behind the scenes on this, you've got a retail sales report, an import and export report coming out today, industrial production. There's going to be a lot of attention paid to the retail sales report because the expected number is a pretty good sized decline. And just in the short time that I've been up and watching things, there are already, I've heard a couple of individuals say that they think there may be a decline, but not nearly as much as a 0.6% decline. And that you could see the decline being not nearly as bad. This number is based on data that has to do with a weakening job market, maybe wages that haven't gone up quite as much as what people had been hopeful for. But there are other indicators that suggest the American consumer right now is still strong and still spending. And so this was the thought behind the idea that this number may end up not being nearly as bad as what people are predicting or what the analysts are expecting. We are still a good almost hour away from this number coming out, so we will see what happens when it comes out. And that's kind of all we've got going on right now. There's not more than that or less than that. Futures are more volatile typically than the regular daily trading, at least on most days. And so it can't come as a big shock that things are, the pot's being stirred a little bit this morning before the open of the market. But I don't think this is going to have any kind of a dramatic effect on anything that we are doing. The new trade that we sent out for Amazon, I expect that to fill. I don't think it's going to be difficult to get into that trade. If you're on the triple play program, I don't think it's going to be hard to get into the CrowdStrike trade or the AMD trade. AMD futures are actually up a little bit on AMD. This is becoming a very talked about and popular stock just recently. A lot of people very bullish on AMD as one of the bigger, U.S. chip manufacturers. So it's actually up a tiny bit. If you got into the trade yesterday, great. If you're trying again to get in this morning, I think you still have a good chance of getting in. But I don't expect a big effect, plus or minus on our portfolio if the actual market move is not a lot different than futures. If this is just a preview to what ends up being a much bigger sell-off, and then we could have a little trouble, but it'll be for a day. It's not something that'll be lasting. This move to the downside, barring a shift before the market actually opens, means that for absolute certain, we will probably wait another day before we adjust our DIA trade on the triple play stuff, because the futures are pointing to an open that would be lower than our long put strike price, and that would actually be a good thing from the perspective of that trade. So we'll probably hold off on making an adjustment on that this morning. But if you're able to be on Discord, I'll be arriving at my home in the southern part of the state in the neighborhood of 9:30 Mountain Time, and as soon as I'm down there, I'll take a peek at what's going on and probably get on Discord for a half an hour or 45 minutes at least right at that time, and then I'll be online when the market closes today, maybe putting out some additional information. The rest of the week, my schedule is back to normal, with the one exception being the Thursday the 19th, which is Juneteenth holiday, and the markets will be closed. So hope you have a good day today. Hope you can weather the storm. If it's no worse than what futures are suggesting, it'll be easy. Even if it's a little bit worse, it's not a storm we can't weather for a day. So hang in there and don't be too worried about it. Thanks everybody. Bye bye.